Have you ever noticed how some Christmas movies don't actually feel warm once they're over? They glow while you're watching them, but something lingers after the screen fades to black. Not joy, not comfort, something heavier. Most holiday films exist to reassure you. They promise that timing works out, that love arrives exactly when it should, that waiting is rewarded. But once in a while, a Christmas movie quietly breaks that agreement. Meet Me Next Christmas looks like comfort. It sounds like romance. It dresses itself in lights, music, and gentle smiles. But beneath that surface, it tells a far more unsettling story. A story about hesitation, about emotional avoidance, about what happens when people confuse patience with courage. This film doesn't scream its message. It whispers it. And that whisper stays longer than any dramatic scene ever could. What you're about to hear is not a review. It's not a recap. And it's not here to convince you to like or dislike the movie. This is a breakdown of what the film is doing to the viewer, why it feels different, why it divides audiences, and why some people walk away feeling comforted, while others feel exposed. Let's begin with the first truth most people miss. Number 20. This movie misleads you on purpose from the very first frame. Meet Me Next Christmas presents itself as safe. Everything about the opening is familiar. The lighting is warm, the color palette is gentle, the music moves slowly, never demanding attention. This is intentional. The film wants you to feel protected. It wants your guard down. It wants you to believe you already understand what kind of story you're watching. Because once you feel safe, you stop questioning. This is where the misdirection begins. The movie does not announce that it will become uncomfortable. There is no tonal warning, no sudden shift that tells you something darker is coming. Instead, uncertainty enters quietly. A pause here, a hesitation there, a look that lasts just a second too long. Nothing feels wrong, yet. And that's the point. By the time doubt starts to settle in, you are already emotionally invested. You've accepted the tone. You've trusted the atmosphere. And once trust is established, the film begins to test it. This is not manipulation in a cheap sense. It's structural design. The movie understands something crucial about human psychology. People resist discomfort less when they don't see it coming. So instead of confronting the audience directly, Meet Me Next Christmas lets them walk into emotional uncertainty on their own, and that's why the realization hits harder later. Number 19. Waiting is the core theme, and it's dangerous. Waiting is often romanticized in storytelling. It's framed as loyalty, as faith, as proof that love is strong enough to endure time. This film challenges that idea quietly and relentlessly. On the surface, waiting feels noble. A year doesn't sound long when spoken aloud. A promise sounds meaningful when it's wrapped in romance. But the film doesn't show waiting in theory. It shows waiting in practice. Day by day, moment by moment, life continues. Schedules fill up, responsibilities pile on, and feelings remain frozen. This creates emotional suspension, a state where nothing resolves, but nothing fully moves on either. The movie shows how this kind of waiting drains clarity. Hope stops feeling exciting. It starts feeling heavy. Not because love is gone, but because it has nowhere to go. Waiting here is not peaceful. It's exhausting. The film never says this out loud. It doesn't need to. It shows it through body language, through silences, through the way time passes without emotional progress. By the midpoint, waiting no longer feels romantic. It feels like avoidance, and that's when the audience begins to realize something uncomfortable. Waiting isn't neutral. It actively shapes outcomes. Number 18. The promise is an escape from responsibility. Meet Me Next Christmas. It sounds poetic, it sounds brave, it sounds like destiny. But when you strip away the romance, something else emerges. A promise made in the future avoids a decision in the present. The film understands this deeply. Making a promise feels like action, but it isn't. It delays choice. It postpones accountability. It creates the illusion of commitment without requiring immediate risk. And the movie never openly condemns this. Instead, it lets the consequences speak. As time passes, the promise becomes a burden, not because it was dishonest, but because it replaced action. The film shows how promises can become emotional shields, a way to protect oneself from the fear of choosing wrong. If things fail later, the blame can shift to timing, to fate, to circumstances. But the film quietly suggests something more unsettling. Sometimes promises don't protect love. They protect fear. Number 17. Christmas is used as emotional pressure. In most holiday films, Christmas heals everything. It brings people together. It restores faith. It resolves conflict. Here, it does the opposite. Christmas amplifies absence. The lights are brighter. The music is louder. The joy is more visible. And because of that, loneliness becomes sharper. While others gather and celebrate, the characters wait. They replay memories. They question choices. The contrast is intentional. The film uses Christmas as emotional pressure, not comfort. Every festive moment becomes a reminder of what isn't resolved. Joy exists everywhere except where it's needed most. This inversion is subtle, but powerful. It forces the audience to confront a truth many avoid. Holidays don't fix emotional uncertainty. They expose it. Number 16. New York represents emotional chaos. New York City has been romanticized in cinema for decades. Snowy streets, warm cafes, serendipitous encounters. Meet Me Next Christmas rejects that fantasy. Here, New York is loud, crowded, impatient. People move quickly. Schedules collide. Moments are missed by seconds. The city doesn't wait, and it doesn't care. This setting reinforces one of the film's core ideas. Timing is unforgiving. In a world that never pauses, hesitation becomes costly. The characters don't lose each other through betrayal. They lose each other through delay. New York becomes a reflection of modern life itself, always moving, always demanding attention, rarely slowing down for emotional clarity. And in that chaos, love becomes fragile. At this point, the film has already done something dangerous. It has dismantled comfort without announcing it. It has turned waiting into a question, rather than a virtue. And it has shown how easily love can stall, not because it isn't real, but because it isn't acted upon. In Part 2, we go deeper. We'll explore why the absence of a villain is terrifying, how silence becomes emotional decay, and how the film quietly exposes fear as the real antagonist. Because what Meet Me Next Christmas is really about has nothing to do with destiny. By now, the illusion of comfort has already cracked. Waiting no longer feels romantic. Promises no longer feel safe. But what makes Meet Me Next Christmas truly unsettling is what it refuses to give you. There is no enemy, no betrayal, no moment you can point to and say, that's where everything went wrong. And that absence is intentional, because the film's real antagonist is quieter than that. Number 15. There is no villain, only hesitation. Most love stories give you someone to blame, a cheater, a liar, a mistake so obvious it explains the heartbreak. This film gives you none of that. No one is cruel. No one is dishonest. No one sets out to hurt anyone. And that's what makes it terrifying. The damage doesn't come from action. It comes from delay, from moments that pass without decisions, from words that stay unspoken, from choices that are postponed until they no longer matter. The film quietly suggests something most people don't want to accept. Heartbreak doesn't require evil intentions. It only requires hesitation. By removing a villain, the movie removes comfort. There's nothing external to blame, no force to fight against. The responsibility stays exactly where it hurts most, with the characters themselves, and by extension, with the viewer. Number 14. Silence slowly destroys connection. Silence is often portrayed as maturity, as patience, as emotional restraint. But Meet Me Next Christmas treats silence as erosion. At first, silence feels respectful. Characters pause. They hesitate before speaking. They choose restraint over confrontation. But restraint turns into distance. The film uses long pauses intentionally, moments where something should be said, but isn't, where clarity is possible, but avoided. Silence becomes a substitute for honesty, and slowly, connection weakens. The movie understands a painful truth. Silence doesn't preserve relationships. It slowly dismantles them. Not dramatically, not loudly, but so quietly that by the time anyone notices, the damage is already done. Number 13. The concert is a test, not a fairy tale. In a traditional romance, this would be the moment destiny wins. The crowd parts, the music swells, love finds its way. This film refuses that fantasy. The concert is loud, chaotic, unforgiving. People move, voices overlap, seconds decide outcomes. The movie turns what should be a cinematic reunion into a test of intention. Are you willing to push forward, to act decisively, to choose movement over hesitation? The film strips away the idea that love simply happens. Here, love requires effort under pressure. Miss the moment, and it doesn't wait for you. This isn't romance as reward, it's romance as responsibility. Number 12. The film denies instant gratification. Most movies understand that audiences crave relief. Answers, resolution, Meet Me Next Christmas, deliberately withholds both. Questions linger, feelings remain unresolved. Time passes without payoff. This frustrates viewers, and that frustration is essential. The film wants you to feel what the characters feel: uncertainty, impatience, emotional tension without release. This denial of gratification mirrors real emotional experiences. Growth is slow, clarity is delayed, and hope is tested repeatedly. By refusing to comfort the audience quickly, the film earns the weight of its eventual moments. Nothing comes easily here. Not love, not certainty, not peace. Number 11. Perfect timing is exposed as a myth. The idea of perfect timing is seductive. It promises safety. It delays risk. The film dismantles this idea piece by piece. Careers intrude. Life interrupts. Responsibilities never pause. Waiting for the right moment becomes an excuse, a way to avoid making difficult choices. The movie makes something painfully clear. Time does not create space for love. People do, and if they don't, time fills that space with something else. By the end of this section, the audience understands a brutal truth. Perfect timing isn't missed. It never existed. At this stage, Meet Me Next Christmas has stripped away every comforting illusion. There is no villain to fight, no dramatic betrayal to overcome, no perfect moment waiting just around the corner. What remains is fear. Fear of choosing wrong, fear of vulnerability, fear of acting without guarantees. In Part 3, the film becomes even more personal. We'll explore how memory becomes a prison, why consequences are never erased, and how fate is quietly demoted from hero to illusion. Because once fear takes control, waiting stops being romantic, it becomes avoidance. By now, the film has taken away every easy explanation. There is no villain, no perfect timing, no moment that magically fixes everything. What remains is something far more dangerous: memory, consequences, and the belief that fate will step in if we wait long enough. This is where Meet Me Next Christmas stops being a love story and becomes a confrontation. Number 10. Memory becomes a trap. As time passes in the film, the characters stop waiting for each other. Instead, they begin waiting for a memory, a moment, a feeling, an idealized version of something that happened once. The movie shows how memory slowly replaces reality. Moments are replayed, polished, and perfected in the mind. Details that didn't matter before become sacred. Flaws disappear, and reality can't compete. The film understands something deeply human. Memory doesn't stay honest. It edits, it softens, it removes uncertainty. What was once a real interaction becomes a symbol, and symbols are impossible to live up to. The longer the characters wait, the more the memory grows, and the heavier it becomes. Love is no longer something happening in the present. It's something preserved in the past. And that is where growth stops. Number 9. Consequences are never erased. Many romantic films reset emotional damage as soon as hope appears. Pain is forgiven. Time heals everything. This film refuses that lie. Every decision leaves a mark. Every hesitation creates distance. Every missed moment reshapes what comes next. Even when the story offers warmth, the weight of what came before never disappears. The characters carry emotional residue. Regret doesn't vanish just because circumstances change. The film respects emotional continuity. It treats feelings like something that accumulates over time. This is why the story feels heavier than expected, because it refuses to pretend that love alone fixes everything. Consequences matter here, and once they exist, they must be carried, not erased. Number 8. Fate is not the hero. The film flirts with the idea of destiny. Coincidences happen. Near misses repeat. But fate never saves anyone. Instead, it becomes something passive, an excuse people lean on when they're afraid to act. The movie quietly demotes fate from hero to illusion. Doors open, moments appear, but nothing moves unless someone chooses to move. Waiting for fate without action leads nowhere. The film suggests something unsettling. People don't miss love because fate is cruel. They miss it because they confuse fate with responsibility. And responsibility is terrifying. Number 7. Courage is the true romance. Romantic films often celebrate belief, faith, hope. This one celebrates courage. Hope is easy. Belief is comforting. Courage requires risk. The film slowly shifts its emotional center, from waiting to choosing. Love is no longer portrayed as something that happens to you. It becomes something you step into. This is where the movie challenges the viewer directly, because courage removes excuses. Once you accept that action matters, you can no longer blame timing, fate, or circumstance, and that realization is deeply uncomfortable. Number 6. This story is about seconds, not years. The film emphasizes something most people overlook. Life rarely changes in dramatic leaps. It changes in seconds, a moment of doubt, a late decision, a hesitation that lasts just a beat too long. These tiny delays carry enormous consequences. The movie magnifies these seconds deliberately, because that's how regret actually forms, quietly, invisibly, without warning. By the time you notice, the moment has already passed, and time does not rewind. At this point, Meet Me Next Christmas has fully revealed its core. Love is no longer the central conflict. Fear is. Fear of choosing wrong, fear of vulnerability, fear of acting without guarantees. In Part 4, the film reaches its most uncomfortable territory. We'll examine why the ending refuses to comfort, how devastation arrives without drama, and why waiting is finally exposed as fear in disguise, because from here on, there are no illusions left. By now, the film has stripped away romance, destiny, and comfort. What remains is truth, and truth is rarely gentle. The waiting has stopped feeling hopeful, the memories have stopped feeling warm, and fate has lost its power. What's left is the emotional aftermath. This is where Meet Me Next Christmas becomes hardest to sit with, because now the film stops asking questions and starts answering them. Number 5. The ending refuses to explain itself. Most films rush to explain themselves at the end. They summarize emotions. They tell you what to feel. They guide you gently toward closure. This film refuses. There are no speeches spelling everything out, no emotional monologues to release tension, no neat bow tied around the experience. Instead, the ending trusts silence. It trusts the audience to sit with what has happened, to process without guidance, to feel without instruction. Some viewers find this frustrating, others find it honest, but no one walks away unaffected, because the ending doesn't comfort you. It asks you to take responsibility for your interpretation, and that makes it linger. Number 4. The devastation is quiet, and that's why it hurts. There is no dramatic collapse here, no screaming, no visible breakdown. The devastation arrives slowly, through realization, through understanding, through the weight of what cannot be undone. The film understands that real heartbreak rarely announces itself. It settles in when everything goes quiet, when distractions fade, when you finally acknowledge what's been lost. This kind of pain doesn't explode, it sinks. And because it's quiet, it feels personal. The audience recognizes it, not as fiction, but as something they've lived. Number 3. Waiting is revealed as fear. By this point, the film no longer pretends that waiting is noble. Waiting is exposed as fear. Fear of choosing wrong. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of regret. The movie never condemns this fear. It understands it. But it refuses to romanticize it. Waiting is shown as something people do when they want certainty without risk. And certainty, the film makes clear, is not how love works. This revelation is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. Once waiting is seen as fear, it becomes harder to justify. Number 2. This story is about avoidance at its core. Meet Me. Next Christmas is not a love story. It's a story about avoidance. Avoiding difficult conversations. Avoiding emotional exposure. Avoiding decisive action. Love exists in the film, undeniably. But it is repeatedly sidelined by fear. The characters don't lose love because it isn't real. They lose it because they hesitate to engage with it fully. This honesty unsettles viewers, because avoidance feels familiar, and familiarity is the most uncomfortable mirror of all. At this stage, the film has closed every escape route. You can't blame fate. You can't blame timing. You can't blame anyone else. What remains is choice, and choice demands courage. In Part 5, we reach the final truth. We'll explore why action is the film's real message, how the story reframes love itself, and the bonus truths that only appear after reflection, because the film's final statement is not romantic, it's honest. At this point, the film has removed every illusion. There is no destiny waiting to rescue anyone, no perfect timing hiding around the corner, no villain to blame, no dramatic confession that magically repairs everything. What remains is something far more uncomfortable: responsibility. This is where Meet Me Next Christmas stops pretending to be a romance and reveals what it was trying to say all along. Number 1. This is a Christmas movie about action. Strip away the lights, the music, the seasonal warmth, and what you're left with is not a story about fate. It's a story about action. The film's final truth is simple but brutal. Love does not wait forever. It does not pause while you gather certainty. It does not protect you from risk, and it does not reward hesitation. Throughout the story, every missed opportunity traces back to the same source: inaction. Not because the characters don't feel deeply, not because love isn't real, but because feeling is mistaken for doing. The movie challenges one of the most dangerous romantic beliefs, that love alone is enough. It isn't. Love requires movement, decision, risk. The film doesn't frame this as heroic. It frames it as necessary, and that distinction matters. Action versus belief. The film's core conflict. Many romantic films celebrate belief. They tell you to trust the universe, to wait for signs, to have faith. Meet Me Next Christmas quietly dismantles that idea. Belief without action changes nothing. You can believe deeply and still lose everything. You can hope endlessly and still miss the moment. The film suggests something far more demanding, that love is not a feeling you protect, it's a choice you repeatedly make, and choices come with consequences. This is why the film feels heavier than expected, because it doesn't flatter the audience, it challenges them. Why this movie divides people. Some viewers walk away feeling comforted, others feel exposed. That division is intentional. If you believe waiting is romantic, the film feels gentle. If you recognize waiting as fear, the film feels confrontational. The story adapts to the viewer's emotional position, and that's why reactions are so different. People don't argue about the plot. They argue about what it means, because meaning here isn't fixed. It reflects the viewer. The film's quiet accusation. The most uncomfortable thing about Meet Me Next Christmas is not what happens in it. It's what it implies. It implies that many people don't miss love because it wasn't meant to be. They miss it because they didn't choose it in time. That idea is dangerous because it removes comforting narratives. It removes excuses. It removes the safety of fate. And once those are gone, what's left is a question no one enjoys answering. The question. The film leaves behind. The film never asks this directly, but it leaves it hanging in the silence. How many moments have you postponed because waiting felt safer than acting? How many connections did you delay until timing decided for you? How often did you mistake patience for wisdom and fear for maturity? The movie doesn't answer these questions. It leaves them with you. Why the ending feels different on rewatch. On a first watch, the ending feels restrained, quiet, almost unfinished. On a second watch, it feels intentional. You start noticing the warnings earlier, the pauses, the hesitations, the moments where action could have changed everything. The film becomes less romantic and more honest with every viewing. That's why it stays with people. It doesn't end when the credits roll. It follows you into your own memories. The real reason this is a Christmas movie. Christmas isn't here to fix the story. It's here to expose it. Holidays magnify emotion. They strip away distractions. They force reflection. By placing this story inside Christmas, the film makes its message unavoidable. Joy becomes contrast. Celebration becomes pressure. Hope becomes fragile. Christmas doesn't save the characters. It reveals them. What the film never says, but means. Meet Me Next Christmas never tells you to stop believing in love. It tells you to stop waiting for permission. It tells you that clarity doesn't arrive first. It arrives after action. It tells you that regret isn't born from wrong choices, but from unmade ones. And it tells you something few romantic films dare to admit. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is act before certainty arrives. This film isn't sad because love fails. It's sad because love waits, and waiting has a cost. Time does not pause. Feelings do not stay frozen. Moments do not repeat themselves. And the longer you delay, the more the story changes without you. Bonus fact 1. Most viewers don't react to this movie immediately. Its impact grows over time, not during the watch. Bonus fact 2. People in different life stages experience completely different versions of the same story. Bonus fact 3. The film becomes less romantic and more honest with every rewatch. Bonus fact 4. The real ending isn't on screen. It happens when viewers compare the story to their own choices. If this movie made you uncomfortable, that means it touched something real. And if you enjoy films that don't comfort you, but confront you, then this channel is for you. Subscribe for stories that don't play safe. Stories that linger. Stories that ask the questions most movies avoid. And before you go, answer honestly, would you wait another year? Or would you choose now? Leave your answer in the comments.